Today, we'll be covering how you can integrate FileMaker with the Authorize.net API to process credit card or bank account transactions with a customer. These are sent from your custom app to Authorize.net, which processes the transaction and returns information in a JSON format. First, we'll start with how to set up your Authorize.net Sandbox account, go through a quick demo for creating and charging a customer, and then dive a little deeper into some of the technical details. To begin, you'll first have to make an account through Authorize.net. For the tutorial, we'll create a Sandbox account at developer.authorize.net so that we don't create any real charges to real people. Once you've created an account and logged in, a pop-up window will appear asking us to choose which account settings we want. We'll switch to live mode, which will allow us to process transactions and ignore the rest of the settings for now. From there, under Account Settings, API Credentials and Keys, we'll grab the API Login ID and generate a new transaction key, which we will save somewhere safe. Next, we'll take a look at the sample file, which is available for download in the article. We'll put our API Login ID and transaction keys in the right spots and switch our account type to Sandbox. This ensures the right Authorize.net endpoint will be used for our account. Once we've confirmed the information is right, we'll go ahead and move on to the next step. Creating a customer for Authorize.net is as easy as putting information into fields and sending it in an API call. All we need to do for this step is put in customer information, like name and address, as well as credit card information. Since we're in a test environment, we'll want to use a test credit card number, like this one. After all information is filled in, we can click the Create Profile button at the bottom. If all goes right, we should be told that the API response is successful and that we're ready to move on to the last step, charging a customer. Once a customer is created, charging them is just as straightforward. Here we have a portal of items the customer has ordered. We'll fill out information about the orders, like the item and its description, unit price, and quantity, and then hit the charge button. This should once again tell us a charge was successful, and you should receive an automated email from Authorize.net to the email you created the Sandbox account with. Now that we have a basic understanding of how it works from a user's point of view, let's take a look at some of the scripting to see how it's really done. There are two scripts that talk to Authorize.net here: Create Customer and Charge Customer. Let's start with creating a customer. All information about a customer is sent as a parameter to this script, but we can see that some of these fields have an off-net format text function surrounding them. What this does is replace spaces with underscores because when sending information to Authorize.net, it does not like having spaces in these values. From there, we grab the login ID and transaction key from Preferences, determine which API endpoint we need to use based on whether or not we're in Sandbox mode, and start setting up our JSON. The JSON is easily the most complicated part of the integration between FileMaker and Authorize.net. Authorize.net is not a REST API, and instead of using JSON for its calls, it converts the JSON that someone sends to XML. This means that we must order our JSON in a specific way, or else the call won't work. By default, FileMaker sorts JSON alphabetically, which makes this a difficult workaround to deal with. Fortunately, we have a solution. With a custom function called JSON serial reorder, we can apply serial numbers to different JSON elements at any level of nesting, allowing us to order the JSON however we want. The biggest drawback to this, other than the time it takes to set up, is how unpleasant it is to read and look at. Here, we can see that different items, like merchant and authentication, have two items, name and transaction key. While we do not have to apply the serial reordering in this spot, because alphabetical order is how Authorize.net wants it for this JSON element, if we take a look at the payment profile information a few rows down, we can see that this information is not in alphabetical order. First name must come before last name, which should come before company, which should come before address. We apply this formatting to the JSON creation and use that custom function to keep them in the order that Authorize.net wants. Fortunately, the API's response is much easier to deal with. The response is sent in JSON, which makes it easy to pull whatever information we need from it. Once we confirm that the creation was successful, we store the customer's new Authorize.net ID in FileMaker, as well as the payment profile information, which we will then use to charge them. Charging a customer is more of the same process. We pass the information to the script, including the customer's Authorize.net information, and send that in a reordered JSON object to Authorize.net, which sends us a response in JSON. Once we've confirmed that the charge was successful, we're good to go. Thank you for watching and following along. If you have questions or would like assistance with integrating Authorize.net in your custom app, don't hesitate to contact us.